Okay, welcome to those here and those listening. Welcome back from Yom Tif. I hope everyone had an uplifting Yom Tif. I hope everyone had a beautiful and connected Yom Tif. We're going to take a break tonight from Bilvavi Mishkan, and we are going to talk about some recent Torah that has come out from Reb Shimon Spitzer, who is a Maggid Shiur, a Rav in Eretz Yisrael, highly touted as one of the Avi Bitachon, and ultimately it is a situation by which he has found his way into the world of Chasidus and into the world of Panemius and into the world of Litvaks. He's found his way into every single area and type of Jew, and every week he puts out a Torah called Mechon Havineni, and it is different Divrei Torah in English and in Hebrew and in Yiddish, and it allows people to really get a very transparent and honest view at Emunah and Bitachon. And for me, it is a absolute game changer, so I highly recommend you checking it out. I can put a link in the chat when we're done, Bli Nether. And Ellie, I know you're on the call, so if I don't remember, maybe you can remind me or you can put it in. But where you can pretty much get the Mechon Havineni pamphlets, and happy to share that with you. Ultimately, Rabbi Spitzer has come to Chicago a few different times, and I've had the opportunity to talk to him. And every once in a while, he puts out something that I think is absolutely necessary for the world to recognize as just fundamental elements of what it means to live as a Yid. And we've talked in the previous classes in the Bilvavi Mishkan Torah, we've talked about different areas of patience and the need to be patient with ourselves and our growth and what manifests in front of us. And one of the things that end up being quite difficult for many in the Balabatish realm is, waiting for Shefa and Bracha the way they want it to come and to present itself in their lives. And like a poor, nebby, pathetic boyfriend who can't seem to let go of his obsession for a girl. The more obsessed he is, the more the girl pushes him away. The same thing kind of works with the Eibishter. The more we obsess over what we don't have, the more that it gets pushed away. Chas v'shalom that the Eibishter can't give what he wants to give when he wants to give. But there's an element of building ourselves as a kli, as a vessel. And a vessel is meant to receive. A vessel is not meant to create. And so in our effort and education I've been given from Moshe Gersht, we are in a active shutfis with Hashem, and we are in this partnership that allows us to co-create with Hashem. And the version of co-creation, and what co-creation means is we have Hashem who desires to give and to give and to give. We have Hashem who designs the world in which he controls the outcome. But we have the job of building the vessel in which to receive. And the shinier, better, sharper, cleaner, more holy vessel we build, the more opportunity it is for Shefa to come into that vessel. We don't need to build a bigger vessel. We don't need to overwork and create some sort of complicated vessel. We need to create a simple vessel, a Pintel Yid. We need to be able to create a vessel that allows every one of us to be in a position to receive Hashem's goodness. And a lot of that has to do with what we end up spending our time with throughout the week, throughout the day, where our focus is, where our devekus is, how connected we are, how disconnected we are. And the reason why we co-create with Hashem is because that's what he told us to do. When we talk about Hishtadlus, a lot of times we think it's just like that physical labor element, when Hishtadlus is not really just the physical, it's the building of the Kli, and the way to think about that. So if you take the imagery of that, instead of doing all this work that we completely disconnect from outcomes, which is a phenomenal step, how much more impactful is Kli building? You're doing something for yourself. You're getting something for yourself. You're not in a situation where You're just doing the work and not in a position where you can ultimately see a tangible, immediate result for yourself. Building the vessel, you can actually see. You can see when you're working on your body. You can see when you're working on your mind. You can see when you're working on your soul. You can feel different, right? And the measuring stick is ultimately how you feel, because you get what you feel. You absolutely get what you feel. And so if you feel abundant and positive and you're able to work on those things, and I'm working right now with a coach. She's a woman who lives in Chicago, who's been working with me now. I've had a couple sessions really on how to take all of the negative thinking that may exist in my world and directly correlate it with the opposite positive, and how to take all that negative and slowly be able to chip away at the klipos, at the blockages, at the coverings of all the goodness that already exists in my world, but that is potentially being slowed or blocked or challenged because I'm living from a place of potential negativity in certain areas of my life. And so she's been able to teach me some of the skills needed, and again, I'm just starting, but she's been able to teach me some of the skills needed in order to take those blockages and be able to chip away at them by replacing them with active positivity that is authentically real and present. And so I bring that up because building this vessel, building this kli so that we can be able to insert and modify and adapt to all the things that we talk about in this chabura and all the learning that may go on outside this chabura and all the growth that we're working on, it has to go somewhere. So I want you to be able to think about things maybe a little different. It's helped me from a visualization standpoint, but being able to understand that all of my efforts is going through building up my core self. It's kind of like a video game character where you buy skins and shields and knives and guns, and you get all these different additions and colors and jerseys and Fortnite style. You get all these different things that you can continually add to the character. So we ultimately have an opportunity to add things to the character. And so you'll say that life is hard, and everyone is going through their own battles. Some are much more difficult than others. But when you build a kli that is stronger and more able to resist more challenge and can overcome and can accept, because that's what it's meant for. It's a kli. It's an open top. And we're supposed to let the shefa come into the open top. The shinier, brighter, more whole, more robust, more positive, more happy, more joyful, more free, more surrendered that kli is, we have this ability to contain so much more. A lot of us try to make the kli bigger. We try to make the kli taller. We try to make the kli fancier. If you think about our lives and the materialism that exists within our lives, we're in a situation where we're constantly trying to change the kli physically. We're trying to change the material around us, because if we change the material around us, the inner part of us will finally find joy. And we know obviously that that's that hamster wheel we talk about, that joy seems to just never be able to get solidified. But when you build the quote unquote spiritual kli that you can mindfully keep in mind as a physical kli, then you're in a position where you can also be able to spend all of that time and effort that you're doing and actually deliver it somewhere. We have a need as humans to, when we work, being able to see some of those results. And we want to be able to see those results. And what a beautiful way to be able to see how the hishtadlos is creating the vessel needed to accept the kedusha that contains all the things we need to feel full. We talk about, Reb Weinberger says that, kids off the derech, they're the true kedoshim. They are so much deeper and more holy than most of the regular people. And so you'll say, okay, it's a beautiful concept, kids off the derech. But the l'maisa, why is that the case? Why is it where kids who are off the derech have so much more opportunity in kedusha and have so much more depth and ultimately pain that's manifested in a negative way potentially? Why is that? Because their neshama koffer needs to be filled so much more than the regular person. And in order to get that elokus that they're missing, they fill it with artificial elokus. They fill it with fun. They fill it with mindlessness. They fill it with distraction. They fill it with drugs, alcohol, whatever they may be challenged with. Because that fills the void temporarily and then it immediately depletes. But if a guy who struggles with his ruchnius, a guy who struggles with his serenity, a guy who struggles with connecting, and he's able to work through that and overcome those things, and he's got a neshama coffer that's this big, when maybe the regular guy's neshama coffer is this big, that's that much more holiness and kedusha that could live within a person. So those neshamas are the most special. So for today, I want to share my screen, and I'll pull up his last Havineni that we saw this week. And let me do that right here. What's up, Noam? Share this. Okay. All right. Okay, let me blow this up a little bit. All right. So this is the part I wanted to talk about. The world is prepared for the servant of Hashem. The truth is that each and every one of us come into the world where everything has been prepared for us. Just as a chassan comes into the wedding hall for dancing after everything has been set up, everything is prepared for his comfort and convenience. Now I want to underline something here. In the world of manifestation, in the world of people co-creating in a real positive way, al pi Torah, the truth of the matter is, all of the shefa that we need is already in this world. So when we daven for something, it already creates itself. How it gets to us, when it gets to us, if it gets to us, the ultimate test is full surrender once we daven for it. The most healthy of people, regardless of whether they're balabatim or klei kodesh, that daven for something, the minute they daven for it, there's a firm belief in their heart that it's already here. And that they let go of when, how, why, and what. They let go of all the questions. And they wait for it to come, and they act as if it's coming. And they act as if it's already here in most cases. There's no missing anything. The abundance that they're seeking, the health that they're seeking, it's already here. That is the healthiest version of a kli. You're not making it up. In the spiritual realm, that is the truth. That the kli, that the shefa and the bracha that you're seeking, it's already arrived. Mesilas Yesharim elaborates on this in the introduction. He explains that the entire creation is here to serve the Yid who serves Hashem. Everything is set up and designed for his convenience. The Rebbeinu Shalom has designed the world in this way because the Eved Hashem is a prince, and if he is tethered to the Rebbeinu Shalom, he needs to take nothing. Everything will be given to him. If you're tethered to the Rebbeinu Shalom, if you're tied, if you're connected, if your heart is connected to the heart of the Hashem, if you're mindful about Hashem, if everything you do, there's an iteration of connection to Hashem, you do not need to go chase anything. You need to become that kli. Everything will come at the precisely right time that's good for him. Another forgotten fact. Everything will come to him, and it will come at precisely the right time it's good for him. If we are really Baalei Bitachon, and we are real Baalei Emunah, and we are really radically present with ourselves, and we can really deal at the times of pain and difficulty in a place where we can truly know that it's all good. Not because we've convinced ourselves, not because our brain has said it to us. In our heart of hearts, this too is gamzu l'tova. This too is good. And I said, there's a difference over Shabbos. I was talking to some guys. There's a difference between saying, okay, I don't know why it's good today, but I know it's good, and eventually it'll be shown to me. Versus gamzu l'tova. This too is for the good. So it's a position where the difference between those two things is, one is it's good right now, and one is I'll eventually see the good. The highest level we can be at, and it's very hard, is this is also good right now. You're going to tell me it's good right now when I have, family challenges, money challenges, marriage challenges. Every freaking day I've got to deal with the same thing in and out and in and out. It doesn't take away from the fact that it's hard. It doesn't take away from the fact that there's pain. It doesn't take from the fact that it's in a way near perfection. I'm not saying it's easy. It doesn't take away from the truth, though. It doesn't take away from the fact that the highest level baseball player plays in the MLB. Okay, I'm never playing in the MLB. That still doesn't take away from the fact that the highest level baseball players play in the MLB, and the highest level baseball players throughout a season play in the World Series that's going on right now. I'm sorry that you're not there. Doesn't take away the fact that there are the best. There are the people in the middle and there are the people on the lower end. It's just the reality. Same thing goes with all our levels of Kedusha. How we watch our eyes, how we watch ourselves behave around pornography, how we watch ourselves behave around women, how we watch ourselves behave around the opposite gender in general, how we behave around going to mikvah, how we behave around watching ourselves from Shivcha Zera, how we behave around how we talk and what we watch and what we listen to. I think it was in Rashi this week, they talk about how music can have such a positive or damaging effect. And we all know that. And for me, for years, non-Jewish music was, I could not listen to Jewish music. Thank God Zusha's come out and it's given me a bridge. But there's so much that affects our inner self and our inner world. So everything will come to him and it will come at precisely the right time that it's good for him. And yeah, hindsight's 20/20. When we get up to Shemayim, we'll know. In the moment, it's extremely difficult. It doesn't take away from the fact that it's the truth. 3 principles to remember. This is what I loved. This is what I loved. And if we spent the rest of the time on this, it'd be good enough. To break it down, there's 3 asaidas that we must learn and reiterate. Hashem has created the world in a complete and whole manner. It contains everything that humanity will need. Let me reiterate that. Everything we need, like groceries at the grocery store, like clothing at the mall, like money in our bank account, like the health in our bodies and the marriages around us, and the children that we have, and the table that's sitting on, and the shirt that I'm wearing, and the heating and air conditioning that I've got going on right now in the sunroom. Everything already exists in this world. We do not need anything from Mars. Well, this is this world, so if we got it. But we don't need anything from any other world. We don't need anything that it doesn't happen already or have already. It just made me not have exchanged hands with here. The same money that made somebody rich was with somebody else before. Now, it may have been spread out amongst 1 million people, so it was a ton of poor people, but now it all goes to one guy. But the money's here. The food is here. All the businesses, unless even if you create something from scratch, you were able to take people from another place and an idea and expand it, but it's all already here. All of these things already exist. And our connection and our ability to be patient, which we'll talk about in a second, patience, is the most important piece to being able to watch what's happening in our lives versus reacting to everything. And let's talk about patience for a second. We are in the most impatient generation that there is. There's no arguing that. We need immediate response, immediate gratification, immediate answers. And the problem with lack of patience when it comes to our ruchnius is you can't possibly be reliant on somebody else, in our case, Hashem, if patient isn't a fundamental trait in what you're working on or have mastered. It just by nature doesn't make any sense. If I'm reliant on somebody else, that means that I don't control when I get it or how it happens. If we have a melech that we very much love and want to be connected to, and he's in charge, we have to have patience. We can't just have things the way we want it when we want it, or else we're in charge. It's the most simple, real concept. That if we had time, or we were taught in yeshiva, they should have had classes on patience. They should have had classes on what it means to be an Eved Hashem. And one of the main fundamental traits of an Eved Hashem is to be patient. Techakeh, rega, minute by minute. In lo achshav emisai, right? Doesn't apply here in the same way. So everything is complete and whole. There's nothing else that needs to be created. It's already here. He has designed the world so we need not to go out and take anything. Everything is given to us. Everything is given to us. We are receivers. If we're not going to the bank and printing more monies because it pleases us. We're put in this matrix to be able to do the hishtadlus as we see fit, and then things are coming at us accordingly. We do steps, but the results and outcomes of those steps we can't predict. If we did, trust me, we would try to control that, and it would probably be chaos. But everything we interact with, we just do the interaction, and then what ends up coming back at us, we don't control. A lot of times, you'll get crazy about yourself in like business or in a family issue or in a dynamic that you are not comfortable in or you don't want to be in, and you become depressed. But it's kind of silly, because how could you be depressed about something that had anything to do with you? Because it affects you and it hurts you. I'm not taking away from that, but I'm talking about the actual act of like, I'm depressed because I don't understand. I don't like the way things have gone. It's a little bit more complicated than that, because when you look at it, the truth of the matter is, with depression or with anger or with sadness, it really would only make logical sense if we applied that on things that we did. Otherwise, as the downstream provider about things, that would, not to say that we wouldn't be unhappy, but that reaction is extreme for that. Lastly, a person will get everything he needs precisely at the right moment. We say in Ashrei, you give them their sustenance in its proper time. The Ribono Shel Olam gives it to you precisely when it is fitting and good for you to receive it. Thus, we must know that everything is already here. It will be given to you, and it will be given to you when the time is precisely right. So these three things, one more time, just quickly, so that we can really try to ingrain it. Complete and whole manner is how Hashem created the world. There's no what ifs, is it going to come into my life? There's no what ifs, does it exist? There's no what ifs, it's his department. It's already existing. I have to show up with the best version of my kli. Best husband, best father, best boss, best colleague, best shul member, best community member, best davener, best learner, achieving to create a vessel in which it brings light and love and connection into the world in a big way, that you are the calming presence around people. That when you show up, people are, oh, he's here. Not negative. That sounded more negative than I meant it to. It's more in a relaxed, he's here. He's designed the world so that we do not go out and take anything. Have you ever seen Gedolim run around and rush? There's no such thing. I grew up in a home where timing and timeliness was extremely important. I struggled deeply, and have for a long time, with being late, dealing with people who are late. But really what I'm dealing with is jealousy, true envy, true kina, that I can't just kind of be okay with, not being on time. Chas v'shalom to inconvenience people. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about we'll get there. We'll breathe. The Rav said today, this week during Shalosh Shudas, he's like, the reason why people get divorced or separate is usually for the same reason in which they initially got together. So he gives the example of, he's dating a girl, he's always in a rush, he's always rushing, and she's just like, hey, it's all good. It's all good, there's nothing you have to rush for, we'll get there. Oh my God, isn't that amazing? She's great. 5 years into the marriage, where the heck is dinner? How come dinner's, I was running around with the kids, we'll get dinner, we'll put it on the table. I'm freaking starving. Every night, what else are you doing? Where's dinner? And then they go to their rabbi and they're like, I can't deal with this anymore. This is the worst. It's the same idea with our relationship with Hashem. Oh, I love you, Hashem. Oh, I want to be connected to you, Hashem. Oh, Yom Tovim Regret Hashem. Oh, I trust you, Hashem. Mother! The minute something goes wrong. What happened? What happened? How was it that easy for us to get completely triggered? So I'll tell you where it starts. And we've talked about this before, and I'll tell you ultimately where I think the work really is. Everything we've talked about in this Chabura until now has been talked about the fact that we can only live presently. There's two main rules that I want to just reiterate to the group, because I have to remind myself of this every day, 10 times a day, and it's the biggest. ego. When we are being run on ego, we're being run from between our ears, not in our heart, and it's all about us. I'm not saying it's not justified. I'm not saying the pain isn't real. I'm not saying that it's easy to not suffer. Just like the sports analogy, there are people who do get to the majors and there are people who don't. Doesn't make it that it's not possible because you didn't. Just means you weren't good enough. Same thing goes with ego. Doesn't mean the pain's not real. It doesn't mean the struggle isn't real. It doesn't mean that it's not important. It doesn't mean that it's something you can't ultimately, find a way to deal with. But there's this innate struggle to be happy because of the poor me syndrome. So it's complete ego, selfishness, inner anxiety, inner pain, because I've got to be okay. When you can very much be okay by getting radically present with yourself. And a lot of that comes from breathing, and a lot of that comes from present work, and a lot of that comes from the other steps that we took. But the point I'm making on presence here is that if we show up from a place of radical presence, if you show up from a place of where you completely get yourself to the moment that you're in, all of you, regardless of what's going on in your life, will have a shirt on your back, will have food in your stomach, will have a house you can live in. I don't know all of your marriage or situations. We'll have children you love. We'll have jobs that pay. We'll have shuls that you go to. We'll have communities where we can be Jewish, where we'll have heat and air conditioning, where we'll have running water. And I can keep going on of the list of conveniences that we have. It's all really okay. Doesn't mean that those things don't have to be dealt with, but it's all really very much okay right here. And it always is. Thank God. Can't say the same about people who are in the Holocaust, but even we know that man searched for meaning. We know that Pia Zetzner just had his Yurtzeit on Motzei Shabbos. Talking about Viktor Frankl and you're talking about the Pia Zetzner, these are two individuals who lived in a moment where they realized that the only thing that can't be taken away from a man is how he deals with things and how his emotional state is. So when it comes to this patience thing, you can only be patient in the present moment. And what does patience mean? It usually means that you're present because you're not trying to force anything and you're not living in some sort of regret. So what's the vart that Shimon Spitzer is saying to us as an Eved Hashem? The vart that Rav Shimon Spitzer is saying to us in Eved Hashem is that we have to employ patience in our avoda. Patience. It goes with everything. Everything. It's a universal truth. Can we sit back and watch things go? Can we let them take control? My closest friend and my business partner, Moshe Polstein, he can pretend to watch other people take control of a situation. But it's usually within minutes of that meeting that all of a sudden he's got to take control of the situation. We're planning this vacation to Israel. I got the tour guide initially. Let's just say that I'm doing zero of the planning now. My entire plan is in the garbage and I'm going to have to be in a listening mode because Moshe's got it completely under control. Shalom knows Aryeh. Aryeh was the same thing. My wife would come with a plan. We worked together, give Aryeh the plan. He'd completely reconstruct it and tell her that we're going to do it this way. Thinking he was helping, but he was completely redoing the plan. And I'm calling them out and they out of love. Point is, patience, guys. If we can practice just a little bit more patience, and that means, let me give you an example of what patience means, and I'm going to let you guys go. I was sitting in a meeting today, and the results that were being shared with me were not ideal. And I'm talking about not so much what was occurring, I'm talking about the timeline in which things were working and not working. The initial instinct in my mind, thank God it's not to blow a gasket or insult anyone, but the initial instinct in my mind is to make it clear that there's very little value to what's being shared. But I remember this moment happening today. And I remember thinking, Hashem, this too is on purpose. I'm creating a narrative now that if these things don't happen quicker, then a million other things are going to go wrong. and that there's no way to correct it, and it's too late, and I'm screwed, and the whole thing sucks, and everyone here sucks. This whole company sucks. I hate everyone. That's where the mind wants to go. I remember just watching the situation. I went like this, just looking around. Solved itself. Completely solved itself. Just by wait, there was 10 minutes of me just not saying anything. And it wasn't awkward. I mean, everyone was conversing. Hashem in my head came and just said, just watch, chill. Don't really jump in and fix it. Just watched, and Yosef said something, and April said something, and so-and-so said something, and by the time there was a miscommunication, and now that they're going to rearrange it. That's how we have to live life. We have to live life and watch, and disconnect from everything that's occurring in the mind, and really address what's happening in the real moment. So Mirz Hashem, this is a huge, huge, huge sugya. We just touched on it a little bit, but I really wanted to bring out patience tonight because I feel like we don't give ourselves enough credit and enough space to be patient. And if we can create more space in our lives to have patience, there's so many people, including ourselves, that get so much value from that. For sure, the wives in our life, who very much cherish our patience and test it with frequency, and they're extremely good at it. And our children, our parents, our colleagues, our religion. But we can choose. We can. But it has to be done in this moment. So something I got to work on tremendously, and I'm going to continue to, but I hope this was helpful to the Olam. I know this is a little different than Bilvavi. We'll get back to Bilvavi next week, but I just feel like without this midah being a fundamental piece of what we're thinking about, a lot of things are just harder because we try to rush and we want it to be different. All right. Have a good week, everybody. Thanks for hopping on and listening to me talk. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.